Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Today is Tuesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. We are one day away already, if you can believe it, from Steelers Chiefs on Christmas Day. I want to talk about Andrew McCutchen signing a one-year, $5 million contract with the Pirates. The Penguins won again, a big win over the Flyers. They continue to build some momentum, but the lead topic today will naturally be Steelers and some things happening down on the south side, as well as how they're going to play for that game on Wednesday at Acrisure Stadium. But first, I want to remind you this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering what's next. For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with the insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people handle what's next. Call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarcenter.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. All right, so news from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex today. Looks like George Pickens, Donte Jackson, DeShon Elliott, Justin Fields, very good chance they all play. Not necessarily guaranteed at this point. We'll probably have to wait until Wednesday to find out for sure. But Donte Jackson says he's playing. They're talking about DeShon Elliott like he's going to be in there. George Pickens, obviously a huge part of things. He said that he has to get clearance from the doctors and coaches. But if the Steelers placed such an emphasis on winning the AFC North, which they did against the Ravens, I don't see how George Pickens does not play. Assuming that there's not some sort of grave risk of re-injury. If he can go, they need him to go, and the implications of George Pickens playing, as we've been over, are obviously not small. I want to talk about that first and then about the guys on the defensive side of the ball. You know what that all boils down to for me? The running game, and that has to improve. That was the biggest the weak spot against the Baltimore Ravens. I know there was some focus on the Russell Wilson pick six, the Russell Wilson fumble, whatever, and they certainly had an impact on the game. I'm not saying they didn't, but the Steelers did not run the ball effectively enough, and they also did not stop the run. So let's talk about George Pickens first. His presence on the outside needs no endorsement from me. You talk about Russell Wilson and what he's able to do, throwing the ball deep downfield, giving a guy a shot to make a play. Also, the fact that the Steelers don't have a reliable number two option. George Pickens means a ton for them. I'm not sure I've ever seen somebody improve their contract value so much without playing as George Pickens has done. It's been quite impressive, but it just changes the entire scope of things for the Steelers, the type of coverages defenses run against the Steelers, how many guys are in the box, how effectively they're able to run the ball. If you look at what Najee Harris has done without George Pickens, it hasn't been much. And I don't know whether it's going to be Najee or Jaylen Warren. I was intrigued by what Jaylen Warren did against the Baltimore Ravens, and I think he could very easily play an important part against the Kansas City Chiefs. But they have to control the line of scrimmage better. They have to effectively run the ball. And when it's time to take a shot downfield, well, if Pickens is there, they obviously have that covered. They have not been able to adequately replace that receiver spot. That's a conversation for another day. We've talked about it on this podcast. It's been a shortcoming of what Omar Khan has done roster building, sort of chasing that the entire season. But you want to get George Pickens back, in my opinion. And if you're looking at this and you say, yeah, he needs to be fresh for the playoffs, he does. But I think that's something that on this side, we don't necessarily know all of the nuance of his injury. If he can go, if he can protect himself, if he can get out there and there's not a grave risk of re-injuring that hamstring, I am really curious and I would fully endorse him playing. On the opposite side, you're talking about Travis Kelce, a playmaking tight end. DeShon Elliott is going to help in that department. Joey Porter Jr., he's out with the knee injury. And, well, I don't like their coverage ability without him. And I know Joey Porter Jr. has caught some flack for the number of flags he's drawn and all of that. But Corey Trice Jr., James Pierre, I don't love that. I like having Donte Jackson back. Certainly looks like he's going to play, and it's going to be important. If you look at their wide receivers, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, it's a good group. Maybe not as impactful as Chiefs receiving groups in the past, but you want those guys there. And DeShon Elliott has been extremely good in run support. So I'll be curious to see how much of an impact those guys have and whether the Steelers are able to compete with the Chiefs. it's weird seeing the Chiefs 14-1 and people are talking about them like they're not that good. I mean, it comes down to winning a one-score game a lot in the NFL, and the Chiefs have done that. If Patrick Mahomes has the ball late, I certainly like his chances to do some dangerous things. So this is not an easy game for the Steelers. I'm not sure you need me to tell you that, but it does look like some good news on the injury front for them. All right, on the other side of this, I want to talk a little Penguins, a little Pirates. The McCutchen stuff didn't irritate me as much as most, but it kind of tells me something interesting about what the Pirates are thinking and what needs to work for them. I'll get into that. But first, I want to tell you about the Bradenton area and some of the stuff going on there. Are you ready for an escape from the everyday? The Bradenton area on Florida's west coast is welcoming visitors. Our world-famous beaches are being restored to their pristine states. Beloved island businesses are bouncing back faster than expected, and our signature Floridian cuisine is just as fresh as ever. Don't wait. Start planning your visit today at BradentonGolfIslands.com. So the Penguins won big against the Philadelphia Flyers, an important win, I would argue, for the Penguins. And if you look at the way they've played over the last little while, this all sort of started on Thanksgiving Eve against the Vancouver Canucks. They're playing a pretty decent brand of hockey. Up until the past couple of games, they've done that without too many contributions from Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby. Well, what do you know? Those guys are rounding back into form. Sid with another big game tonight ties Mario Lemieux for the Penguins' career lead in assists. That's never a small thing when you're mentioned with 66. But what I take from this, if Sidney Crosby gets hot, if he's able to carry the Penguins, and make no mistake, he's an elite player still. I don't know if you need me to tell you that, but he's right there. And some of the depth scoring they've gotten, I've really been impressed by. Blake Lizotte, Philip Tomasino has been good. Maybe some guys they didn't expect to get much, or they expected to get much of, they haven't gotten much of. I'm talking about Drew O'Connor, but Brian Rust has been good. Ricard Raquel has been good. That top line has been excellent. They look like a reasonable hockey team. Now, how do they address the Owen Pickering injury long term? We'll see. But there's enough there. If Tristan Jarry plays well, I keep getting asked, you kind of buying stock in the Penguins being a playoff team. And I know it sounds crazy, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am. It's been quite a turnaround for Mike Sullivan. I know I was on here talking about this a lot, sort of losing faith in what they're doing, not understanding why they're sticking it out with Mike Sullivan. I still am surprised that they stuck it out with Mike Sullivan, but you know what? They're playing a better brand of hockey. They're more responsible in the neutral zone. They're more responsible in front of their own net. And there's some stuff there that, again, if the goaltending holds up, I think the other pieces are enough to give them a chance. All right, let's finish up with a little baseball talk and Andrew McCutchen. 1 year, $5 million. Can't say it was a big surprise. I was surprised more, honestly, by when this broke and sort of the reaction to it. There was some frustration among Pirates fans, and I understand why. I don't think it's so much relative to Andrew McCutchen as it is seeing guys sign with other teams and the Pirates. People want them to spend money. I get it. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not defending it. What I am saying is Andrew McCutchen deserves to go out on his terms. He deserves to go out in a way that makes sense for his career, that's respectful for his desires to want to stay in Pittsburgh. That's saying nothing of everything else. Like, you can be upset that they didn't sign Christian Walker or Paul Goldschmidt or Tyler O'Neill or Michael Conforto, whatever it is. Like, I get that. What the Pirates are telling us, though, is that their improvement is going to have to come internally, and that the Major League Baseball doesn't have a salary cap, but the Pirates basically have a salary cap. And to improve, to win, to do anything, they're going to have trades like the Spencer Horwitz trade. Whether we agree with it or not, it has to work out. And it's a pretty big gamble, right? If you look numerically, and I did this in my column on the Andrew McCutchen signing, Spencer Horwitz actually produced a better OPS plus than every player I mentioned except Tyler O'Neill. And you could throw Max Kepler onto that list as well. And now, if he performs that way over 150 games, the Pirates are going to look awfully smart. If they don't, they're not going to look very good. They're going to be criticized. They're not going to win. And I don't just mean with Spencer Horwitz. I mean with some of the other bets they're making. They're betting that Matt Haig, the new hitting coach, can get through to Jack Sawinski, to Henry Davis. They have to get more out of those positions. They have young, talented players who have not realized their potential. The Andrew McCutchen signing can be about Andrew McCutchen finishing his career here. Objectively, that is not a terrible deal. Like, if you take a DH, hit 20 home runs last year at a 740, 750 OPS, something like that, it was respectable, and you're going to pay him $5 million. Throw in all the baggage that Kutch has, and I mean that in a good way, what he means to Pirates fans. That's not a stupid move. But you can also be upset about what the Pirates have done and think man, they won 76 games again. What are they going to do? How are they going to fix this? And start asking critical questions like that. That's completely fair. And where it ends for me is if they can get these guys internally that they have, if they can find improvement there. And once again, if they can't, that's going to be a damning indictment of this group's ability to evaluate talent, to draft, to acquire talent in non-traditional ways, meaning not spending a bunch of money, to develop guys, to bring them up, to put them in situations to succeed. But they can also do that. Let's not forget that in 100 games last year, the Pirates went 56-54. They were in position to add at the trade deadline. They have a really good young pitching staff, and I mean young starters. Some of these guys can be really good. You know about Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, Mitch Keller, etc. You're going to get Mike Burrows back for a full season, Johan Oviedo. That's going to be the identity of this team. Add Bailey Falter in there, Bubba Chandler, Thomas Harrington, even Braxton Ashcraft. These guys are legitimately exciting, and the Pirates should be able to pitch their way to success. But some of these guys, you look at Jack Sawinski 2 years ago, hit 26 home runs, Henry Davis, a 1-1 pick. They have to get these guys productive. They have to get more out of Brian Hayes and get him healthy. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, for what they're paying him, they have to get production out of that spot. So I don't know if they will or not. That's the golden question. But it's not necessarily about Andrew McCutchen. It's obviously been about Andrew McCutchen in Pittsburgh a lot. I have no problem with them signing him. I get what they're doing. Yes, I would rather they spend money too. I understand that. But this is what they're telling us. They're telling us that they think that these guys are going to produce, and it's going to be fascinating to see if they do. That does it for me today. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of this content and much more from our Post-Gazette North Shore Drive YouTube and podcast channels. And I will be back, well, not on Christmas. I'll be back on Thursday morning with another episode of First 10. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.